Hi, my name's Zen and welcome to the channel. If you've not been here before and you have been following, welcome back. Now, can I ask you a question? Have you ever dreamed of taking your campervan or motor home to the Faroe Islands and Iceland? Well, this is something that we did back in April, May and June of this year, 2025 that is. And in this video I'm going to give you some basic ideas of what the costs are to get over there and things to expect while you are there. As I said, we went over there in April and well, set out from home in April, and on Easter Sunday is when we actually left the country, and then we got back somewhere around the early part of July. I can't remember exactly when it was, about 10th or 11th July I think it was. So those sort of the time of the year that we went. I mean, obviously costs to get over there can vary depending on the time of the year that you go. So if you're planning on going there say next summer, then your costs are going to be a lot more expensive than what ours were, especially for the ferry to get from the top of Denmark across the Faroe Islands and onto Iceland. So as I said, the other thing you're going to really need is a lot of time. So you can't just sort of think, oh, well, we'll just take the camper van up there for a fortnight during the summer holidays, because it's something you're just not going to be able to do. Because bearing in mind that the ferry that you're going to take from Denmark over to the Faroe Islands takes a day and a half to get there, and then once you come off of the Faroe Islands you've then got another day at sea before you're then going to get to Iceland, and then obviously then you've got 2 days to come back again. So you're looking at 4.5 days at sea altogether for the round trip on the ferry. So basically, obviously we've come from the UK, so it cost us, we went from Harwich across to the Hook Island, and that cost us £308, and that was using our Tesco club card as well, so we got some discount on that. So if you're a Tesco shopper and you've got your discount card, then obviously that can help you as well with getting a little bit of discount on there. The biggest expense, and as I said, this is now bearing in mind what time of the year you go, is the ferry there from Denmark across to the Faroe Islands and onto Iceland. So we sort of planned ours that we weren't coming back during the big part of the real start of the summer holidays, which is sort of around the middle of June, because the actual summer time that they have in Iceland especially is literally from the middle of the June to the end of August, and that is the summer season over and done with. So the ferry for us cost us £2,333 return. Now that ferry didn't include any food on it at all, and all it included was a very basic cabin. And when I say basic, I mean basic. So if you're one of these people that wants a bit of luxury, then obviously you're going to have to add on a lot of extra money to that ferry crossing. But as I said, we wanted to do it as cheap as possible. I mean, saying that, we used to live in a camper van, so living in a little cabin for a couple of days wasn't really a problem. The food on the ferry itself, this is the one that goes from Denmark, from Denmark across to Iceland and onto the Faroe Islands and Iceland. You're looking for actual basic food, somewhere between £14 and £19 will get you a main course. So that'll be a burger meal or something like chicken and chips or something like that. They do, in the main sort of buffet bar, they do some, or the main canteen sort of area, they do some other dishes as well. There is a sort of where you can pay some money and then you can have a bit of an all-you-can-eat main course and a starter, I think it was. But then they also have some very posh restaurants where you're talking probably around 70 to £90 per person just to have a meal on there. So we didn't pre-book any meals on there because we didn't really know what the sea was going to be like, as we're not got that good of sea legs. And we actually went on the way out, we went without an evening meal, and on the way back we went without an evening meal as well, because the sea was that rough. We just spent the time in the cabin instead. One thing, when you get to the top of Denmark, if you're going to take your vehicle there, don't make the mistake I did and fill your vehicle up in Denmark thinking that the Faroe Islands is going to be very expensive for fuel, because it's not. So I think I filled up in Denmark, I think it worked out to about £1.30 a litre. I think I paid for diesel up there. Well, on the Faroe Islands at the time of when we went there, it was £1.10 a litre. So it's well worth, as I said, just waiting. You know, if you need it, if you're absolutely on fumes, then obviously put a bit in it, but just wait till you get to the Faroe Islands to fill up, and then vice versa. And then obviously, if you're then going to be going on to Iceland afterwards, which you probably would be doing, is make sure again you fill up in the Faroe Islands before getting onto Iceland, because the fuel prices in Iceland are exorbitant. Especially when you're getting out into the boonies. You know, the main sort, if you're getting sort of when you come off the ferry, the prices there I think worked out to about £1.70 a litre. And once you get up into like the West Fieldlands, which is where we went up to, it was £1.86 a litre. But on average, I think we paid about £1.80 a litre for diesel while we were there. And then bearing in mind that you're going up and down mountainsides, it's a lot of money. So on Iceland itself, we did around 2,200 miles and we spent £556 in diesel. On the Faroe Islands, we spent about £72 in diesel, and the cost to get us from the UK to the top of Denmark, but that was including filling the van up when we got there, was £287. Once the other thing you have to think about is, especially on Iceland, is make sure that you don't go anywhere less than half a tank of petrol or diesel in your vehicle, because petrol stations are few and far between. So if you're sort of coming up into a place, you see a petrol station, just fill it up. And then at least you know then you're going to have enough then to last you until you get to the next place. You could be talking 100 miles between petrol stations in certain places. The other thing to think about, I think there is a toll on Iceland, but we didn't come across any on there. But when you're on the Faroe Islands, you have to pay for the undersea tunnels. Now they can vary between £6 and £20 one way. So now there is one that runs from the island of Estroy back down to the main island, which I think is Streymoy, which sort of takes you back down to Tórshavn. That one is £20 in each direction, and it's got a roundabout in the middle of it, and it's got a bit of a sort of some bright frilly lights, and sort of makes it quite exciting. But it wasn't worth 20 quid. Roads. Generally, the roads on the Faroe Islands and Iceland are fantastic. You'll not see any traffic at all. Once you get out of the main towns, you can drive for miles and miles and not see another vehicle. Not so much in the Faroe Islands, but on Iceland, some of those roads though can change from fantastic tarmac to just gravel, dusty, bouncy roads in an instant. And I would recommend that if you're taking your van over there, is if it needs new tyres on it, is to put some all-terrain tyres on it, because some of the big boulders and stones and stuff like that we went over down some of these roads is a bit of a van wrecker. In fact, if you've just built a van and you want to take it on a bit of a shakedown, Iceland is the place to go to. Because I'll tell you something, I'm glad I built the van I did. I mean, I think I overbuilt this van. And if I built it again, I probably wouldn't build it the way I have done. But though saying that, for what we went down in Iceland and how the van's still in one piece, I think that's a testament to my van building skills. Right. On the Faroe Islands, if you like walking and there's certain places you want to go to, then you have to pay hiking fees, because a lot of the places you want to go to, well, not a lot of them, but some of the places you have to go to, they are on private land, and the private landowner doesn't want you walking all over it, so he has to maintain it. So basically you have to pay hiking fees. So we did two. We went to a place called the Lake Over the Ocean on the island of Vega, and that was £20 each or thereabouts. And then we also walked to the lighthouse on the island of Kelsoy, again was £20 each. So it sort of adds up a little bit. But if you want to go the Faroe Islands and do these walks, then you've got to pay the money and do it. It's all going back into the local economy at the end of the day is where I'm looking at it. Food. We took quite a bit with us, such as pasta, rice, noodles, tin food, etc., etc. You are not from the UK into the EU. You are not allowed to take any meat or dairy in there at all. So when you go through customs, say the port of Harwich, for instance, they may have a look in your van. We actually got our van checked as well, just to make sure we didn't have anything in there, and also that we weren't smuggling any illegal immigrants back out of the UK into the EU. Can't really see that happening, can you? So we just took some tinned food, dried food more than anything. Cost of the supermarkets on the Faroe Islands and Iceland, you're looking between 50 and 100% dearer than what you are paying for food and that in the UK. And we found that both on the Faroe Islands and also in Iceland, that bonus supermarkets were the best ones to go to. And we also found as well that if you go into a supermarket on a Monday morning, you can get some quite good reductions, because supermarkets on the Faroe Islands, in fact most shops actually on the Faroe Islands and in Iceland, are not open on Sundays. So if you're sort of thinking to yourself, I'm running out of food, get it on a Saturday, or wait till the Monday to get it, because you're not going to find it on a Sunday. The only thing that's open on Sundays is tourist attractions. So yeah, as I said, bonus supermarkets, on a Monday morning, you'll get bread and quite a lot of vegetables as well that have been left over from the weekend at quite considerable reductions. I mean, bearing in mind that a loaf of bread worked out to about £3 a loaf, on a Monday morning, you get it for 50p a loaf. And then also some reductions on cakes and stuff like that. And we also found with the fruit and veg, it would reduce quite well on a Monday morning. Eating out, because we got the camper van, and we sort of don't like being ripped off for food. So we do most of the cooking ourselves in the van, but we did eat out a few times, and this was sort of like basic place, things like a fish and chip shop, burger meals, etc. They sort of ranged between sort of £12 per portion up to £18 per portion, which is really, I suppose, what you're paying in the UK these days when you go to a pub. But yeah, as I said, we didn't eat out in any restaurants, especially in Iceland, because you need to take out a mortgage if you're planning on doing that. Campsites. On our way from, once we got over to the Netherlands, we actually stayed at one campsite when we came off the ferry, which is one we've stayed at before, and it cost us £12 for the night without any electric. And then from them, we gave ourselves 5 days to get from nearly the hook of Holland up to the top of Denmark. And in that time, we didn't stay on any campsite at all. We just used the Park for Night app, and basically we didn't pay for anything on the way up there. We've in the town of Leer in Germany, they allow you to basically park in the marketplace for free overnight. We stayed at the side of a police station just outside of Lundberg. Now that we have stayed there before when we went to Norway a couple of years ago, and that one did cost us €10, I think, for 2 nights that we were there the first time we went there. But this time, because of the time of the year, I think it was, or the barrier was broken, there was no charge for it. And then in Hobro in Denmark, we stayed at the side of the Viking Centre. That was completely free for the night. And then, did we say another one? I think we were just then up to the top of Denmark by that time, and we actually basically stayed at the seafront in Hirtshals in Denmark, and again, that was completely and utterly free of charge. On the Faroe Islands, and also Iceland as well, it is completely and utterly illegal to wild camp on there. You've got to use campsites. If you don't, there's going to people. If you get caught, then there's some quite hefty fines to pay. So as I said, we just stayed on campsites just to be on the safe side. So Faroe Islands, your average cost of a campsite with electric hookup is around £24 a night, which is cheaper really than what you're paying on some of the sites in the UK at the moment. I mean, I sort of looked a while ago to go to Castleton in Derbyshire, and it was on bank holiday weekend, and the Caravan and Motorhome Club wanted £56 a night, which is an absolute rip-off. So prices in the Faroe Islands is quite reasonable in comparison. And on Iceland, that sort of works out to around £23 a night without electric. Plus you also in Iceland, you have to pay a 400 ISK tourist tax charge on every night you stay there. So if you go to hotels, you got to pay tourist charge per night. It's a bit like they're doing in Spain, I think, at the moment as well. So that worked out to £2.40 a night for the tourist tax. But what we did do, if you're going to go Iceland and you're going to be spending quite a bit of time there, and you're planning on travelling more around the outside, not so much within the Golden Circle, then it's worthwhile buying what's called the camping card. Now that costs us £158, which allows you to stay at 30 affiliated campsites between the beginning of May and the end of September, where you'll only pay the 400 ISK tourist tax for the night. You can only stay a maximum of 3 nights on these campsites, well, on each one. Which this might not be for everyone, depending on what your itinerary is. But we used it for 16 nights, which brought the cost for a night's stay without electric down to £9.87. But then obviously you got the tourist charge on top of it, which you have to pay anyway. So that was less than a tenner a night we were paying without electric hookup. One of the nice things about the Faroe Islands and also Iceland is the fact that a lot of the campsites have kitchens. So you can go in there, cook your food, wash up, etc., without having to use your own stuff in your van. And that's even if you're not buying, if you're not paid for electric hookup on the van. So if you've not got electric hookup, you can go in there, use all their facilities, and that's all within the cost of what you pay on the campsite itself. Only thing I will say is that sort of work your meal times slightly differently to what you might do at home. So say you sort of eat at home at between 5 and 6 o'clock. Sometimes those kitchens can be absolutely rammed at that time of the day. So maybe plan on having a sort of an early dinner or maybe a late dinner while you're away, and do it that way. Days out and visiting places. Most of the touristy places, especially in Iceland, are free of charge. So if you want to go to the big waterfalls, a lot of the coastal sort of areas and stuff like that, then they're generally free to go to. But one thing they are starting to charge now, which they didn't when we went to Iceland 10 years ago, they're starting to charge in the car parks now, which I can see why they're doing it. I mean, it was when we got into the golden circle of Iceland, which is really the most really touristy area, and also down onto the south coast area as well. That was sort of around the early part of June, sort of, around the 5th, 6th of June sort of time, I suppose it was. And it was getting busy. And I can see really why they would start charging for the car parks, bearing in mind they're not charging you for the actual attraction itself, which is unlike the UK, which they'll charge you for the attraction and charge you for the parking at the same time. Obviously, things that you do spend money on. Obviously, we went on a glacier hike, and we also went kayaking on the Jolkelsen Glacier Lagoon as well, and that worked out to about £80 per person per thing. So obviously, the glacier hike was 80 quid. The lagoon kayaking, it was 80 quid each as well, which was quite expensive, really, bearing in mind that because we did it with other people. On the glacier hike there was about 8 other people with us, and some of them were an absolute pain in the arse, and I don't think we got as far as we should have done on the glacier hike. And then on the glacial lagoon, we had some people that just hadn't got a clue how to use a kayak, and the actual guide spent 90% of the time rowing backwards just to keep an eye on them. It's all part of the fun of being on holiday, I suppose. We can talk about it now. So if you are planning on going there, enjoy your trip, and if you've got any questions whatsoever, please do not hesitate to put something in the comments below. We've done a whole series of videos on this trip, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to stick the playlist up, but it also may include some other stuff we've done in the past as well, because we went 2 years ago, we went to took the van up to the top of Denmark, over to Norway. We went as far as Trondheim, cut across into Sweden and come back round again. So that playlist may well be available there to watch on there as well as some other stuff we've done in the past. But yeah, it'd be fantastic if you could like and subscribe to the channel. And as I said, any comments, questions, etc., please don't hesitate to ask. And I'll see you again in the next one. Cheers. Oh, that recorded. Did I end that? Was that not? Indeed. That did record, didn't it? That did record.